We're going to talk to Anand Gopal. He wrote America's Secret Afghan Prisons. This article appeared in The Nation and also at TomDispatch.com. Anand, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we appreciate you your time. So let's talk about Bagram Airbase first. Tell us about the history of Bagram under American rule and how it got known to be, basically the Guantanamo or the Abu Ghraib of Afghanistan.
Well, Bagram began its life as a prison when the Americans invaded in 2001, and it's functioned sort of as the main prison detention center in Afghanistan, and it's also functioned as a stopping point for people heading to Guantanamo, especially in the early years. And in those early years, there was regular allegations of abuse, of torture, of sleep deprivation, detainees accusing interrogators of making them assume stress positions, such as sitting on their knees or being stripped naked. Those were the early years. Some of that has tapered off in the last 3 or 4 years.
And tell us about some of the worst abuses. It's not like anybody got killed there, right?
Well, actually, a couple of people did get killed there. At least 2 that we know of, detainees that were essentially beaten to death. In one case, a military coroner, said that the person looked like they had been run over by a bus. They were beaten that badly. And that was the worst of it. But short of that, like I mentioned, there was sleep deprivation, which is regularly used, where they're blasting loud music and keeping the lights on at all hours of the day. And when the detainee would nod off, interrogators would come in, or prison guards would come in and start beating the detainee. There are some allegations of waterboarding, in other words, forced swallowing of water, large amounts of water. There's also even more minor offenses, slapping, kicking, punching, all of that.
And before we move on to the other secret prisons in Afghanistan, those are at least the 2 people killed in Bagram. They were ruled homicides, right? Or were they?
Yes, they were ruled as homicides.
And whatever happened? What was the ultimate punishment there?
There were administrative punishments that took place within the military system, but nothing outside of it.
Okay, administrative punishments. Man, I hope they learned their lesson not to beat people to death. Okay, so let's see if they did. Now we have a whole new set. Well, I don't know how new they are, but a different set of secret prisons throughout Afghanistan. Tell us about those and some of the people that also disappeared from those prisons.
Right. These are smaller prisons. Usually they're just interrogation centers that are, there's 9 that we know of on various U.S. military bases across the country. Typically, suspects are brought there, held there for 4 or 5 days. There are still allegations of abuse en route to those prisons and at those prisons. And for those suspects that are deemed a threat by U.S. authorities, they're then sent on to Bagram.
And, one of the stories that you wrote about, the guys come, there's a raid, X number of people are killed, I think 6 or 9 people are killed, and then a whole bunch of others are detained. And then somehow the bodies show up a mile away from one of these prisons, still handcuffed in the plastic handcuffs. And what did the U.S. military say? They got nothing to do with it? Those people wound up magically dead while in detention? Or I don't even know what their excuse is.
Well, that's what they say for this specific case, in which 9 people were detained, and then about half of them were released, but then a couple of days later, bodies turned up for 2 of them in handcuffs. And the military says that, yes, we detained them, and then we released them, and we don't know how they got killed shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I have no idea. Golly gee willikers. And then you quote someone else who his father was killed in detention, and he says his father's the lucky one. Why? What happened to that guy?
Well, he was a doctor, and he had a clinic in the rural countryside, and the clinic was serving everybody in the area, including insurgents and civilians. And so, for this reason, U.S. forces had detained him and taken him to secret site on Bagram airfield, which is not the main Bagram prison, but another prison, which detainees call the Black Prison. It's run by special forces, and detainees are often kept in solitary confinement. Again, there's accusations of sleep deprivation and other sorts of abuse there.
And his father passed away in detention, right?
Well, his father, it's unclear, but it appears that his father was killed in the process of detaining him. So usually these detentions start with night raids, and in his case, U.S. soldiers came into the house and into the clinic that he works. They killed a couple of people that he says are patients of the clinic, and they captured him and his father. And the two were captured separately, but in the same incident. But then the father was found dead the next morning, and villagers assumed that he was killed as a part of the process of detention.
Part of the process of detention. So let's talk about why they're doing this. We're talking to Anand Gopal. He wrote America's Secret Afghan Prisons. You can see it at thenation.com. Look, the U.S. soldiers are going to tell you in the area, or U.S. troops, look, we can't tell one from another, and we got to go get the Taliban. What do you want us to do? And they are working under obviously incredibly stressful situations. They say the villagers are not helping them, and they can't, tell people apart. How would you respond to that, Anand?
Well, I mean, I've been with the U.S. soldiers many times, and to an extent I can see where they're coming from in that it is very difficult to sort of navigate on the ground there and really figure out who's a civilian and who's actually there to kill you. But for Afghans, and people have told Afghans, for Afghans it sort of falls on deaf ears, because for them, many Afghans said, well, if the only way you can come into our areas is by doing these detentions, then maybe you shouldn't come at all.
Yeah, and look, it's one thing to say, hey, I got to go after people, right? And I get that. It's another thing to say, I have to torture them while they're in detention and beat some of them to death. Because, I mean, imagine if somebody's occupying the United States and they go, I can't tell these Americans apart, so I just arrested a whole bunch of them and tortured some of them and killed some of them. Oh, come on, you got to be sympathetic to that. So we know that's an absurd argument. My question is, how could they not see that this would make their lives in graver danger, that it would turn the local population against them more, and that they would have to fight more of them if they continue to do these, actions that rivaled, in some cases, the Taliban's actions?
Well, yeah, it seems pretty clear to you and me, and I've talked to a lot of soldiers, and on the ground, they just don't see it this way, and there's a whole process of trying to dehumanize the enemy that goes into being a soldier. That's in any army, ours included. And I think they have a lot of that, first from their training here in the States and then deploying overseas. And in the process of that, when they are fighting somebody else, and they have a tendency to dehumanize the person they're fighting, and this makes it easier for them to do the sort of things they're being accused of doing. So
we hear that McChrystal's made the situation a little bit better in terms of, hey, we're here to protect the civilian population, not to kill them. Has that translated over to the prisons, and are we seeing a positive effect there? We've seen a positive shift in the main Bagram prison. As I mentioned earlier, that most of the main worst accusations of torture are no longer the case. That seems to have subsided. But what's also happened is that the worst of the detention process has shifted away from Bagram prison and to these smaller field prisons, and even in some cases away from them and into the actual process of detaining a suspect, which is like breaking into the house and taking him away and taking him to these field prisons. And so it's moved from the areas where the international human rights organizations and other groups like the Red Cross have more access and have more visibility to, which is Bagram, and towards places that are more murky, such as the night raids and the small field prisons that are in the various military bases. A final question for you. Is there anything Obama can do about this? I mean, he put McChrystal in charge. McChrystal does have the quote-unquote proper policy in terms of looking out for the civilian population so you could do counterinsurgency better, not because we're the good guys or out of the goodness of our hearts, but because it's smarter. Is there anything else Obama can do to stop this abuse in these secret prisons?
Well, some of the same processes that have taken place in the main Bagram prison over the last 3 years could be enforced into smaller prisons. That, for example, bringing the Red Cross and allowing them complete access to the prisons. That means working to ensure that it falls under the command of the conventional forces and not the special operations forces, and also working to limit the abuses there.
All right, and that has not happened yet, because the black jail, for example, is still not available to the Red Cross.
That's right.
Okay, well, change we can believe. All right, some progress, but not nearly enough. Anand Gopal is from The Nation, and this article is also up on TomDispatch.com. Anand, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.